everyone, so today's video is going to be finally my mental health updated video. I first started talking about my mental health back, I think it was 2012 maybe? No, it was later than that. Anyway, I haven't done an updated sit down talk to YouTube about everything, and people always ask me questions about it, so I'm just gonna do kind of an updated video and just talk to you and let it all out. The reason it's taken me so long is because I got a new camera. I wanted to make sure I had lighting and everything like that, but my light broke the day I recorded my last video. So I have just natural light today. I've just set my camera up on a small tripod and we're just gonna sit and chat. If this is the first time you're sitting and watching me talk about my anxiety and you're a new follower, you might want to check out my Snapchat and my Instagram. I have them linked below. I have lots of other mental health videos as well, and I'm always open and honest with my followers about my own struggles and my own issues with my mental health. I think it is such an important topic to talk about because I have suffered for 13 years with depression, and on and off obviously. At the moment I'm going through quite a bad patch of anxiety. I wouldn't say I'm completely depressed, but my anxiety levels are very high and I'm just minding myself. So I always have good days and bad days. I take every day as it comes and I don't put pressure on myself anymore. So yeah, today's video is not very structured. It's me just sitting down, talking to you all, sharing my own experiences. I don't really have a plan for this video, but I just wanted to sit down and talk about mental health. So I'll do a quick refresher for any of those who haven't been following me for a while and don't really know my story. I am a full-time blogger and full-time Snapchatter and Instagrammer, and I talk openly about mental health, and I have done since my platforms really started to grow. I feel like it's so important to use my voice to talk about this because back when I was suffering with my own mental health, I didn't really have anyone to turn to or anyone to watch or anyone I could really relate to. There actually wasn't much on social media about it at the time, so I just wanted to open up myself. And one of the first videos I made about the first video I made about my anxiety and depression is still up on YouTube. I'll make a playlist as well and I'll link that below if you want to kind of watch through the years, a couple of different ones. The first one I ever made, you can see how nervous and how anxious I am in the video, and I'd only really started to get back into YouTube at the time. So now I feel a little bit more confident. I talk to Snapchat and Insta stories daily, so talking is my thing. Saying that, I think the biggest step to help anyone who's suffering with their mental health is to talk. A lot of the time I'm in my own head, and that's when I start to panic. That's when I start to suffer really bad with my anxiety. The minute I talk about it or sit down with Chris or my mom or my sister or any of my friends and say, like, these are the thoughts I'm having, this is what's going on in my head, just getting it out of my head and getting it out into the open, and for someone to reassure me, that's like the most important thing for me. If I let it go on and let it go around in my head, I start to believe my thoughts. The mind is so powerful. It can tell you anything you want it to tell you and you'll believe it. So I find it very hard sometimes to explain mental health and explain my own anxiety and my own depression. So if I'm rambling and if you're not fully understanding what I'm saying, just bear with me. This is my journey. This is my experience. These are my opinions. I am not trained in this. I've gone to different counsellors. I've gone to different psychotherapists. I've been through it for a long time, but these are just my opinions. Just a little disclaimer there, because I'm not a trained professional or anything. I've just kind of taught myself a lot. I've gone to different workshops, I've practiced different things to help me with my own anxiety. If you watch the other videos, you'll kind of see the journey I've been on up until now, and I decided at this, I think it was kind of the end of 2017, that I wanted to go back to my therapist. I'd found a really good therapist, and it was the first time someone actually really understood what I was going through and explained why I was going through it. So I decided at the end of the year, I think it was probably like October, November last year, that I wanted to go back to her. So much in my life had changed. I'd had Sienna, we'd moved into our apartment and out of our apartment. We live with my mum now. Like, there was a lot going on. Work had started to really take off. I had a lot going on in my own personal life and my work life, so I wanted to just go back to her and kind of just be like, hey, listen, this is what's going on, this is how I'm feeling. And just, it was kind of like a little refresher course for me, because I'd learned so much in the 6 weeks when I was with her. This was prior to Sienna, and I just kind of felt like I'd forgotten things and I wasn't coping with things as well as I should have been. So I decided, right, this is it. I spoke to Chris and everyone, and I just said, I want to go back to her. I want to talk and see what she has to say. So I made the decision to go back, and I want to go back now long term. And I think it is amazing. I absolutely love therapy. People are always like, okay, is it not really hard? And it is hard. Like, don't get me wrong, it's really hard at the start. But once you get into it, once you feel comfortable with your therapist, and once you find someone that works well with you, it's a lot easier. So maybe I will just actually talk about dealing with anxiety, like how to, like the first few steps in this video, because I don't want it to be a complete ramble. So we'll just stick to that for now. And then if people have questions, you can leave it in the comments, and I can do kind of a whole series on mental health and anxiety. So this one is just about the first few steps I took when I decided to go back this time around. So I went back to therapy, and she hadn't seen me in so long, and so much had changed that I just needed to have her there. And there's nothing wrong with it. And my therapist, she has a therapist, she's a trained psychotherapist. She's worked on psychiatric wards, and she is so well educated, and she is so professional. Like, I'm in awe of her, because she totally understands everything I'm saying, and she's dealt with so many different cases and so many different stories. So when I go into her, I just feel like I'm venting, I'm talking about things that I might be overthinking in my head. I'm getting it all out there, and she's given me really valid points. She's teaching me ways to cope better with different situations, and she's more of a life coach for me now, and I really enjoy that I go to her every 2 weeks. It's my time to just talk and get things off my chest. And sometimes I'm in a really good frame of mind and we just chat, and then other times after Christmas, it had been 6 weeks since I'd been with her, and I just felt really overwhelmed. It's probably because I had that 6 week gap. So when I went back in, she was like, how are you? How was Christmas? How was this? How was that? And I was like, it's bad. So we sat down and we just went back to basics, and we just talked about things, and she reminded me of certain things I should do and certain things I should say, and how I should cope well with things, and how I should cope with certain situations that's thrown at me. And I think a lot of the time I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I do know my weaknesses now. So whenever I start to feel anxious or overwhelmed, I take a step back. I think, what am I actually thinking? What is causing me to think this way? What is triggering that anxiety inside of me? And then I kind of have to reassure myself. I don't really look for, I do sometimes need to look for reassurance in other people, but I'm learning ways to deal with it myself. So basically that's a long story short of why I went back, just to be able to cope better in my day-to-day life and to take every day as it comes. And she always says to me, don't be so hard on yourself and give yourself a pat on the back. So I always leave feeling so much better. I go in feeling really tense and really like, oh, we have to talk about this or we have to talk about that. And then I leave and I'm like, okay, Grace, you can face the world now. It just makes me a stronger person. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with suffering from anxiety. I think the biggest thing is kind of accepting the fact that that's the way you are, and being really open and honest about it, and talking to someone that you can confide in, talking to a trained professional, going to your local GP, just finding someone that you can talk to. It took me 4 different counsellors to find the right one, so don't give up after the first go. Always try someone else. And when I went to my clinic, I met with the director of the clinic, and she kind of did a little assessment. We sat and she talked about what was going on, and then she recommended a therapist for me, because there's different types of therapy, there's different types of doctors that specialize in different things. So she said, if this one doesn't work for you, we can look somewhere else. So that's what I really liked about the clinic that I'm in. I don't want this video to go on for too long, because I want to just kind of get my points across. So maybe this video will just be the first steps into accepting that there's something wrong. Mental health is such an important part of your life. If you don't have a healthy mind, you don't have a healthy body, and the mind can control so much of you. I feel tension in my back, I get a headache, my shoulders give me pains, I feel tension everywhere, and that's just to do with my anxiety and the way I carry myself and the way I let things build up inside. So for me, letting it out is just a release. If there are people out there watching this and they do need help and they feel like they're alone, let me tell you, you are not. So many people suffer with anxiety, so many people suffer with depression. There's different levels, there's different disorders, there's different illnesses. I can only speak from my own experience. Mine is generalized anxiety disorder. It holds me back sometimes in certain situations, but that's only when I'm feeling anxious, and the rest of the time I'm happy and I'm Grace and I'm able to do everything and I'm confident. But then other times I'm anxious Grace, and that's okay. And sometimes I can't go into a supermarket without feeling overwhelmed, or I can't go to an event without getting really overwhelmed, and that's okay as well. I think the biggest thing for me was accepting the fact that I was anxious, and then I just felt relief and I understood anxiety. And there's so much more to it that I will do in the series, but I just wanted to give a little short intro into the series. It's going to be just every week or every 2 weeks I might touch on a topic. I'm not going to give myself a structure, because sometimes when I give myself a structure it overwhelms me. So I do want to do different kind of series on my channel. So this one is the first in the mental health series. The other videos are there in a playlist if you do want to watch these, but these are just the first steps I took with going back to therapy. So if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them down below, and I will try and link as many things in the description as possible. If you want to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat, that's where I daily vlog. If you want to get a feel for me a little bit more, I think a lot of my Snapchat and Instagram followers will have come from there to watch this video. So if you have, leave a little comment and let me know where you came from. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, be sure to check out my social media. It is all listed down below, and I try every day to just normalize things, to normalize anxiety, to normalize mental health, because my boyfriend Chris said to me a while ago, like, I know this, and he was saying it to someone else, it's as important as your physical health. And if you had a broken arm, you would go straight to the doctor, you'd get a cast on it straight away, and that would fix the actual broken bone, and then after that you would go to physio to keep your arm strong. So for me, the first few steps were accepting that I had anxiety, going to the doctor about it, being prescribed medication to help me come out of the depression, and then going to therapy afterwards. That's the physio part of it, that is keeping my mind strong. So if you think of it in terms of physical health, it's the exact same thing. Our minds are so powerful, and they can make us believe whatever they want. So I always try and separate my anxiety from me and say, this is just one part of me, and I'm not going to let that control me. I'm going to control that. And that's why I find therapy so good. There's so many other things I do to kind of help me manage my anxiety, but that will be for another video. This is just kind of the first few steps. If there's anyone watching that just doesn't know where to start, I would recommend talking to a friend or someone you trust and opening up to them, going to your local GP and explaining what's going on, and they will recommend a therapist or a counsellor or someone. They will always know somebody that can help. And then if that doesn't work, don't give up, because it took me 13 years, 4 counsellors to find the right therapist for me, and she's done wonders for my mental health. And I'm getting emotional now, but I'm very grateful that I found her, because I can understand myself better now. So I'm going to leave the video there, because I just don't want to ramble, and I don't want there to be so much in one video. But I'll try and link as much as possible down below. You can ask questions, and do follow me on social media if you haven't already, because that's where you'll see the day-to-day Grace, and that's where you'll see the madness and everything in between it all. So yeah, sometimes it's hard for me to talk about these things. I know what I want to say, but I don't know if I'm saying them in the right way. So I do hope you benefited from this video, and there will be lots more in the series, and I have a lot more content planned for my YouTube channel over the course of the year. So stick around, hit the subscribe button for me if you do want to keep up to date, and thank you all so much for watching. And if you're watching this and you're struggling at the moment, know that it's okay, and that it will be okay, and it's okay not to feel okay. They're the 3 things I always tell myself. And tomorrow is a new day, a fresh start. Don't live in the past, don't live in the future, live in the present moment. And on that note, I will see you all soon. Bye.